The first OpenClaw tip that I haven't heard anyone else talking about regards hidden commands. OpenClaw is amazing, and you can talk to it in really cool ways, like not just being stuck here in a user interface, but you can now talk to your agent, well, anywhere. This is Telegram, and one of the neatest things about OpenClaw is its ability to immediately respond to input from Telegram, Signal, Discord, Slack, and it gets better. And I'll show you how OpenClaw gets better as I share these tips. The first one, hidden commands, has to do with this menu item over here, which shows all of these commands. And I know people are talking about the commands to some degree, particularly the new command. But this menu, I had no idea. I was talking to the agent for quite some time, and I was entering in commands by going over here and then like hitting this slash and then like going back to the ABC and then hitting it. It's just way too much to have to do on a phone. But the cool thing is this wonderful menu on the left-hand side. I do recommend Telegram, especially if you're just starting out with OpenClaw. But over here in Telegram, these commands will teach you a lot about what the agent can do. And the neatest thing is that it doesn't just include the commands that come with OpenClaw, but it also includes commands for skills that you might choose when you first set up OpenClaw, and also skills that you've created. I have a cursor command line skill that the agent created for me that allows the agent right here to, I can basically talk directly to cursor right from my phone. So I can say, create me a Python script that does whatever, or, update the MCP that I need to do, or any kind of task, because in cursor, the space where we work is called agent space. I could, for example, message and say, because my cursor agent is always in agent space, I can say something like, I just need you to find the documentation in Codex, for example, where I have the documentation for OpenClaw. And I could have anything that the cursor agent can do through the command line. The agent in OpenClaw can instruct the cursor agent to do that. And you might be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but you have an agent right here in OpenClaw, so why would you want it to talk to cursor? Well, there's a cost-saving tip about that, and I'll share that later on. Because first, I want to teach you about these commands. This is toggle verbose mode. And the way that it tells you to enter the command is what you can do right here. You can actually just click on it, but I'm going to click on verbose here. I'm going to type in verbose here to toggle verbose mode, and you'll get a menu on or off. Now, here's the tip. Slash commands are a big part of OpenClaw, and I highly suggest that you get familiar with the slash commands, because there's more than meets the eye. If we go down here to the command list on the right-hand side, and then I'm going to scroll down until I see verbose right here. And you'll quickly see that verbose has a little bit more to it. Here is on and off in Telegram. But there is one more command that I find to be actually pretty important when you're first learning about your agent, or when you're giving the agent a task that you really need to make sure it's doing it correctly. Let's turn on verbose mode, and I'm going to just do it by ignoring this menu on my phone here. I'm going to just type in verbose and full. And when I do that, I'll get a response that verbose logging is set to full. Whenever you run one of the commands, you'll get a feedback that the command has actually run correctly. So what does that mean now? Well, let me show you by just sending a command to the agent here by just talking to it. When you're on the phone, it's really natural to want to talk to your agent, at least it is for me. And you might not know this, but a lot of keyboards, I'm using Gboard here, come with voice typing that may not necessarily be on by default. So check in your keyboard settings to see if you have voice typing because it allows you to simply do this. Hey, I need you to take a look at the transcripts folder in the basket and list the transcripts that are there so I can decide which ones I want to process first. Speaking of which, I don't want you to use the processed subfolder as part of this list. Just show me the transcripts that are in the transcripts folder. Thanks. Now, having this little microphone button, you can press it once to talk, or you can double press it and it'll stay on even if you take a pause. Now, what you're seeing here is all of the tool calls that the agents are doing before it gives me the response. And you can see that I have been gathering a lot of transcripts from other YouTubers who are making great videos about OpenClaw because I have been deep down the OpenClaw rabbit hole. But over here with these tool calls, and you can see that it's kind of takes up a bit of the screen. But I'm going to show you also over here in the web application, because over here with the web, it's a little bit easier. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this on Telegram just because it does take up a bit of space. But when you're first using the model, it's very helpful to find out what the model is doing behind the scenes. Now, what's happening here is that you're able to see what tools the agent is using. And I go on about this because it's so important and I don't see anyone else ever talking about it. Understanding what tools your agent has access to and can use and watching it use those tools will, one, get you used to what it's doing in the background. Two, it will allow you to be able to name those tools when you want to use it, when you want the agent to use that specific tool. So EXE is for execute command. Now, the other reason why having verbose full on for a while until you get used to and start to trust the agent is because it also helps for you to see when the agent is going wrong, particularly if because of costs, you need to use an agent, a model within your agent that is less expensive. So a lot of people are recommending that you use Sonnet 4.5, but I am currently rolling with Minimax 2.5 as my regular daily driver. I've been trying that for a few days. It's pretty good. It's not definitely nowhere near as intelligent as Opus 4.5, Codex 5.3. Those top frontier models are the best. There's no question about that. However, they are the most expensive. And I'm finding that I prefer to use OpenClaw as an orchestrator agent that I send off to sub-agents. I'm finding this to be less expensive than asking it to do things the way I'm used to, like here in Cursor, where the model is, I can just pick the model and I just stick with that model, or sometimes I use auto mode. And I can change models back and forth. You can actually also do that directly in OpenClaw using the /model or the /models command. The other benefit of picking models here is that it opens up, again, this neat little provider menu where you can choose. And I'm going to show you the OpenRouter models that I'm currently using. You can choose from Minimax, M25, or KimiK2, or any of the many models that are part of OpenRouter, and just change it here. But what I'm learning is the best way to work with OpenClaw right now, because of the expense, is to use it as a way to keep in touch with where your main agent lives. For me, that's in Cursor. You might use Claude Code or Codex. And I know that both of those tools have command lines. So you should be able to also send commands through your agent here on the phone directly to whatever your main working place is. And that's how I'm using OpenClaw to save money, but I'm also using Kimi K25, which is also a very good model. When you have a subscription like here in Cursor or something like Codex, you can have these different tiers, like this $200 a month tier, and it's subsidized. You get a lot more use than you would if you were using GPT 5.3 Codex Spark, for example, in the API. Be careful here because Anthropic has been cracking down on people who are trying to use their subscription, their subsidized subscription, as a replacement for paying for the API. That's not what I'm recommending that you do here. To have your agent in OpenClaw send a command to the Cursor command line or to the Codex command line is perfectly reasonable to do. However, you just want to be careful. It's not a way to get around your API costs. The next tip I want to give you is over here in the Sessions tab in the OpenClaw dashboard. And here, thinking, verbose, and reasoning are all the same as these commands. So for example, the think command, the verbose command, and the reasoning command can be turned on here in Telegram or over here in the sessions. Not all models support different thinking levels. So if you find that you get an error, simply go to off for that particular model. But reasoning is kind of fun because it, again, helps you get to know how intelligent your model is. The reasoning shows up here. It also shows up in Telegram. And again, you can turn it off in Telegram, for example, and keep it on in the web interface. I find that the web interface is fine. It's perfectly serviceable. You can even use it. And my favorite way to use it is right here in Cursor. So this is the next tip. If you use Cursor or VS Code or some other IDE, anti-gravity, that gives you the opportunity to open up a browser tab, you can actually use your OpenClaw agent right alongside your Cursor agent. Now, the reason why I love having OpenClaw right here in Cursor as well as having my Cursor agent is because they both have access to agent space. But what that means is that all of the information, like, for example, any images that I have created, I can give right to the agent and it can use that here in Cursor. So what's happening is that my user interface is coming down to basically one user interface, which is just this one. I do everything here in Cursor. So my next tip has to do with how much there is going on with OpenClaw. I keep discovering new things every day. And the way that I have learned OpenClaw in a relatively quick period of time is by grabbing the docs, which you can get right here in the OpenClaw GitHub, or even better, using the link here, going to docs, and then grabbing the link for docs. You can ask your agent, which is what I did, to basically use something called Git, which is a terminal command that you can download Git, and basically asked it to pull all of the OpenClaw docs right here into the vault. With something like OpenClaw, where it's a little bit difficult to understand, I actually asked the agent to help me understand what like a gateway was, what a Pi agent was, how the web control worked, the different nodes. And I now understand this because I simply asked the agent to explain to me how all this works. Ask it to, and this is important, write this down, explain this to me in simple language for an adult beginner using the analogy of, and then anything you're good at. Cooking, or mountain bike riding, or knitting, whatever. The key is you learn faster when you make connections in your brain to what you already know with what you don't know. So that's the first thing I did when I wanted to understand how OpenClaw worked before I even installed it, so I wouldn't get stuck in the weeds, because OpenClaw it's not hard, it's just much better if you come into it and install it with some knowledge. Because despite how easy people are saying that it is, just like, just 3 lines to install OpenClaw, there's a lot more to it. That's just the nature of something that is open source. That means it's a bit janky, especially since it's a new project. So the basic point is, in order to take something that's open source and still a little rough around the edges and make it easier for you to work with, you need to understand it. And you can do that in an evening by simply asking the agent and having it teach you in a way that you totally get. This last tip is really fun. Here it is. It's called hooks. Now, hooks are something that's been available in Claude Code and Cursor for quite some time. But what it means is that it's an event-driven system. That means that during the life cycle of the conversation, when the agent does something, for example, the hook system will allow you to inject a script that causes an event to happen. Now, the reason why hooks are so cool is because it allows you to inject in a command that runs at some point during the life cycle of the agent. Like, for example, every day when I start work here in Cursor, I have a hook that runs after the agent response that will ask the agent to actually...
Good evening, it's Monday, 2026-2-16, 9:24 p.m. Your keystone is Produce Video 50, still active and currently in the ideation phase. You've already got the thumbnail strategy handled and deployed.
Speak to me every morning. And that is possible because of hooks. That's how fun they are, and that's how powerful they are. But the sad news is that they're not that advanced yet. In fact, there are only a few event types that hooks run on here. But this is the key part here to be aware of, is this future events. They have more hooks planned: session start, session end, agent error, message sent, and the one that would allow you to do what you just saw happen in Cursor would happen on the message received, for example. The method I'm using is completely free and it's local. That voice that you heard that came out so quickly and sounds really good is from Kokoro Fast API TTS, which is a very fast local model, and that's the voice that you heard. And you can customize the voice, even combining the voices until you get just the type of voice you're looking for. So you might be listening to these OpenClaw tips and thinking, yeah, this sounds really good, but basically it also sounds like a lot. Is this worth it? And the answer is absolutely yes, because it frees you from your desk chair and it frees the agent from a static web interface. But if you're still just like, nah, I don't know if I need all this, I'm going to start with something simpler. Claude Cowork is perfect for your first steps into the agentic workflow world. And I did a complete download pack for Claude Cowork, which will also, by the way, you can graduate to using with OpenClaw. It will work with Cursor. It will work with any agent that has access to a terminal and a file system. It will create a complete Obsidian vault for you and the whole 9 yards. And I did a deep dive into how this whole thing works, 3 master prompts and a whole lot more. And that video is on screen right now.